Here's your host, Alex Garrett.
Well, welcome back to One Leg Up on Sports and Terminello's Take. Lou, how are you this week?
Alexander the Great, I am doing tremendously well. We saw a very couple of interesting conference championship games on this past Sunday, and there's a lot to talk about with both of those games.
All right. Well, I know that you and I probably right off the bat will not disagree, but maybe have different feelings about that 4th and 3 play. In the sense of, to me, if you're going to go for it, run it. You were decimating this Niner defense with your run game. Why try a throw there? Much like the Bills trying throws down the end of the game. I mean, I don't know. I just felt stay with the ground game. And secondly, I don't totally blame Dan Campbell for a 24-10 lead collapsing. There were other factors, and I know you're going to disagree with me on that, but I
disagree with you 1,000%, but that's fine.
Because here's the thing. I mean, he wasn't out there when Gibbs dropped the ball at the 1. I think he should have just gotten down there because, I know it was a close, but just land, keep the ball in your possession, and then give the Lions a chance at the goal line. That didn't happen. There was a fumble in the end zone. I mean, those things Campbell couldn't control.
Well, you're up 24-10. You're in total control of the game, the Lions were. Their first half was brilliant offensively. And the 49ers offense was pedestrian to that point. Their defense really couldn't handle the Lions in the first half. It's 4th and 2, midway through the third quarter on the 28-yard line. You have a field goal kicker in Michael Bagley who has 10 out of 12 from 40 to 49 yards the past 2 years. And Dan Campbell goes for the first down. Why? Why would you do this? Why would you take the air out of the balloon? And that's what he did to his team, both on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. I don't understand it. You could talk, and I don't think this was analytics, Alex. I think it might have been partly analytics, but partly more that he's stubborn. Look, just go back to
getting away with it, apparently, is what I heard.
Well, again, you're playing for a chance to play in the Super Bowl and being the champions of the National Football Conference. This is not playing the Carolina Panthers in September or the Arizona Cardinals in November. Look what he did. Like I said, I'm not sure it's analytics that made him make this terrible decision. Look what he did in the Dallas game late in the year when they went for 2 to try to take the lead, and they did succeed. But the officials said that they were that the lineman didn't officially announce himself in. So they go back to the 7-yard line, and he decides to go for 2-point conversion anyway. I mean, you can't do that. And he's stubborn. He should have kicked a single point there in that game. So that's his mentality. Did he realize that they haven't won a road game since 1957? They had a chance to play in the Super Bowl, and he blew it. This is on Dan Campbell. Then 3 plays later, yes, the 49ers got a lucky bounce off the defensive back's helmet, Kindle Vilder, and Ayuk made a great catch, a great athletic play to make the catch. Yes, it was lucky, but 3 plays later, Brock Purdy hits Ayuk. It's 24-17. Kickoff, the Lions get the ball at their own 24. A botched handoff to Jahmyr Gibbs. 49ers recover, take it in, 24-24. Lions get the ball back. They go out, 3 and out. Niners get the ball back, get into field goal range, kick the field goal and make it 27-24 with 9:33 to go in the game. Now, the Lions get the ball, and for the first time in the second half, are moving it. And they get down to the 30-yard line of San Francisco. The Niners hold, and for some reason, on fourth down, Dan Campbell, who has done a tremendous job in turning the culture and the brand of the Detroit Lions. He has been a godsend for the Detroit Lions. But again, he made a knucklehead decision. Instead of going for a 48-yard field goal, he decides to go for it, and the pass is incomplete. And you knew when the Niners got the ball to 30 that they were going to score the touchdown. That basically was the insurance for them to win the game. And let me say this about Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy is not a game manager. He's an outstanding young quarterback. He's underrated. He's not afraid. Obviously, his foot ability and his ability to run is better than most people think. Once they went ahead 34-24, yeah, I know they scored against the 49ers prevent, but it was over. And then even then, their last gasp, he runs the ball on second down when they still had 3 downs yet. He runs the ball from inside the 5, which forced them to use their timeout, and they didn't recover the onside kick, and the game was over. It's an opportunity lost. This is the type of game, and I think we've talked about these type of situations in the past. The Lions could win the next 3 Super Bowls or win 5 Super Bowls in the next 10 years, but this loss will be on their minds forever. You can win as many as you can. Like I said, we talked about the time when a couple of weeks ago when the Spurs, they won 5 out of 6 times going to the finals. It should be 6 out of 6. But when Popovich kept dunking on the bench in the fourth quarter when Miami was dead. So that's what Campbell did. He's been great for the Lions. I don't want to take anything away from him, but he coached a horrendous second half of the game with a chance to go to the Super Bowl. Alex, you pull out the old NCAA cliche. You want to survive and advance. You're not trying to make yourself look good or look cheeky. And I'm the best coach in the world, and I'm the smartest coach in the world. Dan Campbell, you want to win the game. Bill Parcells would have kicked a field goal. There's a very famous game. Vince Lombardi was 9-1 in postseason. The very first game he played, in those days, you won the conference, and the 2 first place teams played each other. And Green Bay was playing at Philly. Early in the game, it might have been the Packers' first possession. This is the 1960 championship game at Franklin Field. They get deep into Eagles territory. Instead of going for the field goal, they go for it. They didn't get it. So late in the game, they're down 17-13 to the Eagles. Bart Starr throws a pass with no timeouts left to Jim Taylor, who stopped short of the goal line. I think it was on the 13-yard line or the 10-yard line. Clock ran out. Vince Lombardi said that night, the one thing I learned today is you don't pass up the points. Because if he had kicked that field goal, it would have been 17-16, and they would have been able to kick a field goal to win the game. So I know we're in a different time, but Dan Campbell really, really cost his team the game on Sunday. That's my opinion.
You feel like Brock Purdy was overshadowed by the Lions' collapse? Because I feel like not a lot was made about the kids' grit and comeback in that game. I mean, it just felt like the Lions dominated with their ineptness in the second half.
Well, the talking points, you're right. You're 100% right. The Lions' collapse overshadowed an outstanding performance by Brock Purdy. And he's done it 2 weeks in a row. He did it in that rainstorm where he didn't have a good game. And the Niners didn't have a good game against the Packers the week before. But when they needed that last drive, he came through. And he's only played, he's going to go into the Super Bowl, I think only have played 26 games. I think he's 21-5 in his 2 years. He was outstanding, and he's not afraid. And out of the 4 quarterbacks that played on Sunday, 3 of them were outstanding. and we'll get to, I'm sure we'll get to the Ravens and the Chiefs in a moment. But 3 of the 4 outstanding.
It's funny. Last week we were talking about whether San Francisco would be disciplined, and they ended up being that. I mean, discipline had to help them win. But I don't know. I have a soft spot for McCaffrey. I really like that this guy went from the Panthers, who are sort of sputtering, right? And look what he's done in the Niner Nation. I mean, it's a story right there. Christian McCaffrey's changed the whole Niner franchise around, in my view.
Well, he's like we've said before, in my opinion, he's the best all-around running back in the NFL. He's a winner. They know how to use him. They have a lot of guys who are versatile. McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel. They got a great tight end in Kittle. And they struck it rich with this kid in the 7th round, Brock Purdy. And they cut their losses. They wasted all that draft capital to move up to draft Trey Lance. But once they saw that Trey Lance couldn't play, they cut ties with him. And I got to give the 49er management, John Lynch, their general manager, Kyle Shanahan, their coach, and the rest of the staff, credit for realizing, okay, we blew it with this guy. And they're in the Super Bowl for the 2nd time in Shanahan's coaching history with the Niners, and we'll see. And they'll be playing the Chiefs again. But yes, the Detroit collapse overshadowed the 49er comeback and the brilliant performance by Purdy.
I'm a historian, as you know, and I know you love history of sports as well. And when I realized the Niners haven't won in a while, that they were saying, I mean, look, it's sort of like that they're now the team that needs to break the drought, and we'll see if they do it. I will say, you're not going to get away with being down a couple of scores against the Chiefs, though. Wouldn't you agree?
You're right. You could be right. Absolutely. Just look what happened a couple of years ago. They were up 10 in the 4th quarter, at the beginning of the 4th quarter against the Chiefs, and the Chiefs rallied to win that game 31-20. But, it's really a shame because, like I said, 3 out of 4 quarterbacks on Sunday play outstanding games. Obviously, Mahomes, we talked about Brock Purdy, and Jared Goff played an outstanding game. He was victimized by that drop by Reynolds on 4th and 2, and then Reynolds dropped another one on 3rd and 6 after that. And he threw that bomb to Jamison Williams that should have been caught, could have been caught. That probably would have been a Lion touchdown, and that would have turned the game around. But again, in the second half, Purdy put his stamp on the game with his arms and his legs, and he's an underrated runner. He's going to be a top NFL quarterback if he isn't already. So the Lions move on. They'll be a good team again next year, but this one hurts. And all the analytic data, does not account for the ebb and flow of the game and for the feel of the game. And once they made it 24-17, you knew that the Lions were on their heels.
So it's analytics, because I didn't write a column on this. I wanted to, though. But the coaching of Campbell and Dable could be kind of similar. I mean, I'm thinking New York focused because we saw the Giants give away literal games at the 1-yard line a couple of times. And is it analytics affecting these teams and these coaches, or is this just gut instinct? What is it? But with Campbell, it's gut instinct. What about Dable? I mean, that cost him a lot this year too.
I think it's a little bit of both. And again, I think with Campbell, it's more stubbornness than him looking at the analytic chart. I really do. He just, we're aggressive. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. Yes, you gotta be aggressive, but you gotta be smart. And again, as I said a couple of minutes ago, he has done a great job turning that franchise around in only his 3rd year as coach. They were horrendous, but that doesn't exonerate him from being criticized for what he did a Sunday. And there's no guarantee that the Lions will have another chance. the famous Dan Marino in his first full year as a starter, his second year with the Dolphins. He had a spectacular year. I think he threw for 48 touchdowns. They get to the Super Bowl. They lose to the 49ers in 1984. Everybody said, well, he'll get back. He's only in his second year. Dan Marino never got back to a Super Bowl. Never. So you don't know. So
gotta ask you this. I want to switch gears to the AFC because I really think that Zay Flowers learned a lesson this week, didn't he? I mean, he's taunting the Chiefs, and he gets that fumble in the back, another fumble at the goal line. I mean, I look at his performance and say, man, if ever a rookie was to learn a lesson, it's in the AFC Championship game or any kind of championship game like that.
Well, what you just said, lesson in the AFC Championship game, you don't want to be learning those lessons in an AFC Championship game. If something like that happens, it needs to happen in a regular season game. Hopefully it doesn't happen in a regular season game or an incident in a preseason game. And the thing is, Zay Flowers has had a tremendous rookie year. And he had a great game on Sunday, with the exception of those 5 bonehead minutes. And, we can definitely talk about it as he dove for the end zone. And I'm not going to kill him on that. It wasn't like he was hot dogging it. He was way ahead and he spiked the ball at the 1-yard line. And Steed, the defensive back for the Chiefs, did a nice job punching the ball out. But again, maybe if he had just decided to go down instead of trying to extend the ball over the goal line, that would have changed the game around. But then, then that was compounded by what he did 5 minutes earlier when he did that taunting of the defensive back, which was ridiculous. And then to make it worse, after he fumbled the ball in the end zone, he smacks his hand on the sideline bench or a Gatorade cooler or something, cuts his hand. Alex, he didn't play another snap after that because his hand was cut up. So that was a bad 5 minutes for a rookie, and hopefully he does learn. And he's a great player, and he really is. But
now Jackson was crying on the sideline, but it sounds to me like you weren't entirely impressed with his performance either.
Like I said, 3 out of the 4 quarterbacks on Sunday were outstanding. He was the presumptive MVP, who I wouldn't have voted for MVP, is going to had the worst day. He was bad. He was bad Sunday. I mean, he threw into triple coverage for that interception in the end zone. He missed receivers. He's still not an accurate thrower. He's better than he was. He's an outstanding runner. He plays on a team that has always been good during the time he's been there. It's not like he was drafted by the Jets or the Browns or during that 2018 draft. But again, you could win the MVP twice. That's great. But he's 2-5 in the postseason, and they've played a lot of games at home. And that loss was, on him and John Harbaugh, who didn't have his team ready to play. I mean, let's face it, Kansas City's, even though they have the best player in the league and the best offensive player in the league in Patrick Mahomes, who was spectacular for the 3rd straight playoff game. And we heard about, the Chiefs have never played on the road. It's the first time they play on the road. Well, they played 2 playoff games in a row in 2 very tough places against 2 very, very good football teams. In the cold in Buffalo and in Baltimore this week. Mahomes was in total control of the game. He can win any type of game, Alex. He can win a shootout. He could be a game manager if he had to be a game manager. And that's what he was, I think, a little bit on Sunday. They were up 17-7 at the half. They knew that Jackson was going to have trouble against their defense. Once they made it 17-10, Baltimore, he opened it up a little bit. And then he made that great play on 3rd and 9 and threw that perfect lob to Marquez Valdez scandling, and the game was over. I mean, Mahomes and Kelsey, one of the all-time great combinations in NFL history, couldn't be stopped. Caught 9 balls in the first half, and this is where I put the blame on Harbaugh and his staff. You know that they're going to go to Kelsey. They don't have guys like Tyreek Hill anymore, so they're limited, and they still couldn't stop him. The Ravens couldn't stop Mahomes to Kelsey. They couldn't. Caught 11 balls for 116 yards. So it's on Lamar Jackson first, but Harbaugh, who is an excellent coach, he's a tremendous coach, did not have a good day on Sunday. You need your coaches to get you through these type of situations. I mean, Bill Parcells did that. He got his teams through. He adjusted. And that separates the good from the great. And Patrick Mahomes is great. Lamar Jackson is not in his league. Not even close.
No, and it showed. Now, the thing about the Chiefs, is it's just amazing how they always seem unstoppable. And I think that's the question: is how does San Francisco stop them? Because they just keep running on. Can overcome anything. And by the way, I don't think we'll ever see Tony in a Chiefs uniform again. That was a bit of a controversy Sunday, but clearly making those personnel moves to get him out of there was one of the best decisions they made.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think we'll see him in a Chiefs uniform again. I mean, the guy is what he is. What can I say? Obviously has a lot of talent, but who knows what his issues are? But he drops too many passes, and I don't think I would be shocked if he's activated for the Super Bowl unless there's another injury that happens this week in practice. We
talked week one. We talked about this in week one because when they had that bad loss against the Lions, I mean, everybody was kind of shocked. And you made the point right away. Well, that was because they didn't have Travis Kelce. So what you just iterated the last few minutes has shown the difference Kelce alone makes. And this is why he'll always be an NFL greatest tight end breaking records. He even broke Jerry Rice's record the other day on Championship Sunday. He doesn't need Taylor as far as I'm concerned.
Yes. But I guess she's nice to have around
to make him even more popular. I think the guy is just a legend in his own right. Is the point I'm getting at?
Well, you are 100% right, and this is the best defensive team the Chiefs have had in this 5-year run. So it's going to be interesting. It's a very interesting Super Bowl. Again, the Chiefs for the 3rd straight week are underdogs, which I'm sure I'll bet anything like that's never happened in the Mahomes era. But as I told you last week, Baltimore had the better roster, but I ain't going against Mahomes, and you can't.
I also don't like the comparison though of Brady versus Mahomes. I feel like
it's ridiculous, Alex. It's ridiculous. Let Mahomes. Mahomes is great. Mahomes is in the middle of his prime. He plays for a great team, and he has a great coach, just like Brady did. He had a great team and a great coach. But that comparison stuff just drives me nuts. All I know is San Francisco and Steve Wilks, their defensive coordinator, have 2 weeks to come up with some schemes to confuse Patrick Mahomes, if that's all possible. Because they weren't ready. And this 49er defense isn't as good as we thought it was going into the season. Again, I'm not picking a winner. I know that the Chiefs are a slight underdog right now, but I am not going against Patrick Mahomes.
You know what no one's done, and I know I would mention it last week and weeks before. No one, I don't think, in these practices ever really practiced the defending against the sidearm. Like, that is his killer right there. When he goes sidearm, no one could stop him. That's a big part of his game.
It is. It is a big part. It is a big part of his game. And then he, like you said, on that 3rd and 9, he just lobbed that perfect pass to clinch the game. He's great. Again, on their first 8 drives, Baltimore only had 91 yards. They didn't take advantage of what Buffalo did the week before. Buffalo ran the ball for 182 yards against Kansas City. And Gus Edwards only ran the ball 3 times in the entire game, and he's one of their punishing runners. So that was puzzling to me. That's a lost opportunity for Baltimore because everything was laid out for them, as we said going into the playoffs this year. Everything was laid out for them, and they lost again.
Well, do you think we'll ever hear? Well, Mahomes isn't going to be great on the road. I don't think we'll ever hear that again.
We'll never hear that again, Alex.
We'll never hear the "Oh my God, Kansas has to go on the road." They don't care. I mean, they could go to Antarctica and win. That's as far as I'm concerned. But
I agree with you.
As you know, I have a lot of jerseys, and I've been reluctant to take out my Mahomes just because I'm leaning toward the Niners. I don't know why I have this affinity for them in the Super Bowl, but I just
they could, Alex. They definitely could win. They're a great team, and it's a toss-up game. But Mahomes is 14-3 in the playoffs.
And it doesn't help that it doesn't really not help, but it aids the case for the Niners when I have a picture of Joe Montana as a kid with Joe Montana. So maybe that's a reason why I'm here. But no, it'll be a fun one. And Purdy will be. I guess I was so distraught about the Lions collapse, I didn't even realize how good a game Purdy was having, because almost, if you were rooting for the Lions, it was happening so fast. It was just boom,
it
boom,
was
boom.
Happening so fast. Yep.
And of course, great teams take advantage of mistakes. Remember, the Niners had to make advantage of every mistake the Lions did, and they did. Isn't that a sign of a winner right there?
It is. It's a sign of a winner for sure. Some people might say, well, they got a little lucky, and maybe they did, especially with that helmet catch by Ayuk. But only a great athlete can make that kind of a catch in midair like that. It's going to be a great Super Bowl on February 11th. It really is, and we have a couple of weeks to talk about it. So
we have weeks, we have hours, we have tons of stuff to talk. Like, I just feel like the next 2 weeks are the longest stretch. Although we're already into Wednesday already, the first week between the two. But this always feels like a long stretch because they just hammer us with superfluous, unnecessary stats. I mean, it's just
they will. No question about it, Alex. You're right, but they need the 2 weeks, and I don't care about all the stupid. You're gonna listen to talk radio, and there'll be some retired player pushing some vitamins or pushing some kind of new razor, during the interview. We're gonna hear all that stuff, but if you're playing in the most important game of your life, I'm glad that the league gives the teams 2 weeks off to heal to the best of their ability, and hopefully we see a good game. And I think we will.
Well, who are the injuries that we want to see come back healthy? What are you looking at in that respect?
Well, the Chiefs are going to be without Charles Omaniu, their defensive end, who strip sacked Lamar Jackson for the fumble on Sunday. So he's out. I don't know if William Gay's going to be back for the Chiefs. Now, Samuel played a very good game on Sunday, but I'm sure he was banged up. I'm sure that they medicated his shoulder. I'm sure he took a shot before the game. So he'll have 2 weeks to recover. And I'm sure at this stage of the season, everyone has, aches and pains. So we'll see. And just hopefully nobody gets hurt in these 2 weeks of training as they lead up to, and practice as they lead up to 6:30 Eastern time on February 11th.
All right. Well, we'll find ways to keep people listening to the Terminello's Take entertained, and we won't bore you with all the stats. And oh my God, at 6:30 p.m., Mahomes does better than at 3:30 p.m. I mean, really, this is how.
That's right. Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm sure there'll be stats like that. What time of the day does Patrick Mahomes play his best?
But we'll avoid that, and we'll just get some historical conversation going on. You know what was funny? I think Sunday was the anniversary of the Giants beating the Bills, if I'm not mistaken. So that was on my mind also this week.
I think you are right. I think that what you are 100% correct. You see, and that's a game where we talked about earlier how coaches can win games. Bill Parcells won that game for them. He shortened the game. The Giants.
Sounds like you want Bill Parcells back on the sidelines for your Jets. I don't know, Lou. I'm just speculating.
Well, to me, he's a great coach. He won that game. He knew that they couldn't beat the Bills if they opened it up offensively, and they controlled the clock for 40 minutes, almost 41 minutes. The Bills had like 19 and a half minutes, and the Bills had over 400 yards in that game. I think it was 401, and it came out to a 20-19 game. But Bill Parcells shrunk the game. He knew what he was doing. I think if you gave me, I know Belichick won 6, and Parcells only won 2. But if you said to me, if I had one game to win, who would I want as coach? It's going to be Bill Parcells or Vince Lombardi. That's just, they're all great coaches, don't get me wrong. But Parcells or Vince Lombardi would be my 2. And
by the way, you can see the Vince Lombardi Trophy over at the Paley Center this weekend. I don't know if you're aware of that, but they're going to have They're going to have a huge deal going on through the 10th next weekend. So I might go over and check it out as well. Always fun to see the trophy, no matter what sport. I don't know if you've ever gotten to touch one of the ones. I mean, obviously you're a big hockey fan.
I had my picture taken with the Stanley Cup. I did after the Devils won in their first Stanley Cup in '95, because we both shared the same building, and they brought it over, and we took a shot with the Stanley Cup. I mean, I've seen the Major League, the World Series trophy, and but I didn't take a picture with it. And of course, I've seen the Larry O'Brien Trophy, and I've held the Eastern Conference champion trophies when the Nets won back-to-back Eastern Conference championships.
I'm glad you mentioned that conference championship, because I do believe Mahomes was like the key to unlock a magnetism between the Lamar Hunt Trophy and his very own Chiefs. I mean, it feels surreal to me every time they hold it, because it's the name of the guy who founded the team. I mean,
I know.
great is that?
It really is symbolic.
And his grandson accepts the award every year, which is even more a little chilling.
His son.
Oh, his son. Sorry, his son.
And so it should, like I said, we'll see who's going to hoist the Vince Lombardi Trophy in 10 days.
Well, I know locally everybody is excited, because this was the best January in a while for the Knicks. I mean, we had a 14-2 stretch there. They're on a 8 or 9 game win streak right now, and they might now have to do it without Randall for a little while. So my main question to you is, how do they keep the momentum going without Julius Randle, who, whether you like him or not, is playing a big role in this streak and in this month and on this team?
No doubt about it. You're 100% right. The Knicks have done a very good job in constructing this roster, and obviously getting OG Onabi was great for them. He bounced out their team. And we had talked about earlier in the year that their roster was out of balance. But I knew that Dante DiVincenzo, when they signed him, I said, oh, he's a good complimentary player. He's playing great. He's an excellent player. He's he's most outstanding player of the Final Four when Villanova won the national championship the second time. Brunson has gotten better. I do not believe the Dallas Mavericks, especially with their coach, one of the greatest point guards of all time, Jason Kidd, would realize how good this guy is. If they did, they would not have let him go. I think he raised his game to another level, and he's made Randall better. Randall's had a terrific year. The ball is not going into, as they say, the black hole and never comes. Nobody else on the team sees it. Randall's game is more balanced. It's not just isolations. Now, do I love Randall as a player? Yeah, he's a good player. I mean, he's a very good player on a I don't believe he's a one, as far as a star, but he's averaging 24 points a game. The guy plays hard every night. And Alex, when was the last time Randall took off a game for load management, for rest? Never. Never. I mean, the Knicks fans have been a little too hard on him. This is a very good team. It's been constructed well. I think they have, depending on what their seed is and which bracket they're in, I think they have a chance to go to the conference finals. I really do. And I have a feeling they're going to make another trade by February 8th, which is a week from tomorrow. So,
all right. Well, let me, by the way, interesting moment happening with regards to the other New York basketball team, the women's basketball team. Sabrina Ionesco is going to go up against Steph Curry. That'll be kind of interesting. It's a new thing, I guess they're trying out, and to gain more popularity. By the way, real quick on women's sports, Caitlin Clark got bumped around, and we'll get back to the NBA in a second, bumped around at Ohio State. And that made real news. And that to me shows how, and by the way, little girls are looking up to her now. I mean, women college sports, you and I were probably around it. I was around it in college. I saw how hard they worked to get on the team and work, every season. They put a lot of work in, and I'm glad they're getting some respect, a lot of respect nowadays.
Oh, they get women's sports is getting a lot of respect. They're on primetime national TV. They're not shortchanged in any way, shape, or form, whether it's college basketball, women's, the WNBA, the women's soccer league, and now we have the new women's hockey league that is in its first year. So no, they're not getting shortchanged in any way, and I think it's important. But Caitlin Clark got bumped around and this has been an age-old problem in college sports for a long time. Students rushing onto the court after their team wins a big college game. And Ohio State upset Iowa that day, and that game was on national television. And she got bumped around. I'm surprised we haven't seen more injuries of that, dangerous injuries, more severe injuries in these court rushing situations. I don't think you could do it in the SEC anymore. I think if you do, you're fined $25,000 or $50,000. They got to get rid of it. It can't be done anymore. It's too risky.
My favorite was actually one court storming. There's video of a guy in a wheelchair being wheeled out there. That was the best one I've ever seen. But I know it got dangerous. But my point is that Sabrina Ionesco has that, and then Caitlin Clark gains attention with that. I mean, that's something you wouldn't even see 10 years ago, that a college women's basketball player was knocked around. I mean, that
you wouldn't. You're right.
By the way, did you know my college made top 10 real fast?
I did not.
Bria Jackson hit this incredible shot from half court, made it. It was on an iPad, and SportsCenter put it on its top 10.
All right.
So there you go. Just a little note on more college women's sports. But back to the NBA.
Well, back to the Knicks.
Yeah,
in a league that nobody plays defense, the Knicks play decent defense. They do, and that's been one of the trademarks of this 14-2 stretch. Plus, the other thing is they're 21-0 against teams under 500. So they're not letting a bad team beat them. And you can go throughout the whole league, and I don't care how good the team is, they've been beaten by teams that they should not have been beaten by. I mean, Philadelphia lost to Portland the other night. That's pathetic. But they're 14. It's a 14-2, and since the trade for Anunoby, who's been tremendous, he's really balanced out that roster, like I said, and you got to give it to him. And Tom Thibodeau is a very solid coach, and he's.
I also think Leon Rose is making his mark, and my other point was this is Obi coming to the Knicks. I was a little worried how they were going to fare without RJ Barrett and quickly, but boy, if you talk about a move of the year for anybody in the league, that's the move of the year. To get Obi here from the Raptors has changed everything too, I've noticed.
Well, you talk about Leon Rose, who's like the man behind the curtain. The guy never is interviewed. It's very weird. But signing Dante DiVincenzo, getting Josh Hart last year.
And Scott Perry's the GM, I believe, right? Is that correct?
No, he's no longer there. And they've dominated teams with bad records. But then they did beat the Nuggets last week, and they did beat the Timberwolves. They hammered the Nuggets and they hammered the Timberwolves.
But I'm seeing a lot of stuff on Twitter here about Dante DiVincenzo has done a great job. The points were laid out by one of the fans: 15.6 points a game, 3.3 assists a game. And he says the Knicks have their starting shooting guard. Does his success this month make him less wanting to go out in the trade deadline? Do they need anybody at the trade deadline right now? Is my question.
Well, they again, you hear rumors that they may go after Bruce Brown, who was great for the Denver Nuggets last year. He could do anything. He played great for the Brooklyn Nets when he was here for those 2 years, and he might be available. I don't know what the Knicks would have to give up or how it fits under their cap. But that trade with Toronto is terrific. And look what Precious did last night. He had a big game against Utah. So they have another big guy. They may not do anything, but I tell you one thing: Dante DiVincenzo is a key part of the Knicks, as is Josh Hart. And of course, it's all led by the guy who drives the car. He's the motor, Jalen Brunson. Ironically, all from Villanova. Hart, DiVincenzo, Brunson, all played on that championship team. And down the road in Brooklyn, 8 miles away or 6 miles away, you got Mikal Bridges, who also played on that championship team. So that is really strange that all these guys are here in playing for the two New York teams.
Well, they're J-Ray products, are they not? I mean, really, they're all...
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
All right, while we're in the Big East, I'm glad we're talking about this. Did you see the horrible reception Ed Cooley got going back to Providence this weekend? That really stood out to me, actually.
Well, a couple of things. I watched the whole game, and I watched the pregame show. And again, I like Ed Cooley. Ed Cooley's an excellent coach. He's going to do an excellent job with Georgetown. Already, you see Georgetown is better than they were. Yeah, they got a long way to go, but he's totally changed it around already, and he will get them to a level of a Big East contender. But again, he was at Providence for 12 years. I know he's a Rhode Island guy. I know he loved Providence, but it's not like. And the fans were tough on him, and so was the media. But it's over, in my opinion, it's overblown. It's not like Providence College lost Rick Pitino or Mike Krzyzewski or John Calipari or Dean Smith. They lost Ed Cooley, a very good coach, who in his 12 years at Providence got to one Sweet 16. So I thought that the criticism of him was a little strong. But the main reason that everybody's upset, he said that he was staying at Providence. He wasn't looking for another job. And the next day, they found out that he was looking for another job. So that's it. We move on.
It definitely was a shocker. I mean, we're close to Seton Hall and St. John's and then that conference. So that kind of move did shock everybody at the very least in March of last year. Did it shock you?
Yeah, I was surprised. I thought he was going to stay. I did because it sounded like he said he was going to stay, and that's what I think has gotten the Providence media, the Providence fans upset. They feel that they were banners. You lied to us. You're a liar. Whatever.
Meanwhile, your team had a nice Seton Hall had a good win in DePaul, which was expected. But
yes.
it looks like, well, they rebounded from that loss from Marquette. It looks like they're going to be in the top rung of the conference. Is that what you're seeing too?
Well, they have to win these games that they should win. They got to beat DePaul the second time they play them. They have to at least split with Villanova. They got to beat Georgetown when Georgetown comes in, I believe, next week. So they have a chance. They're pretty good, but they're just not deep. And without Kadari Richmond, he did come back last night. He didn't start, but he did come in the game. They're in trouble when they're down with any one of their starters. They have no depth. And we'll see. But they've done a good job, and they play tough D. And that's one thing Holloway has them playing tough defense. So we'll see what happens.
We will. And, of course, St. John's is playing this week as well. I guess they're playing Xavier. By the time it's posted, we won't have an official score, so we won't go into it that deep. But 13-7, not bad. I mean, is this what you expected with Pitino's first year? It sounds like you did.
I did.
Said, it's going to take a process. This is going to be a work in progress.
Yeah, I did. And I think next year is going to be a year that they make the big jump. But now once you get into February, this is where the cream rises to the top with the great coaches. So it'll be interesting to see how they react. And, we'll see. A lot of good stuff coming.
The one thing about the NFL that we didn't really touch on is that the big names we thought were going to get hired still out in the cold. Belichick and Carroll. What's going on there, Lou?
Well, I am surprised, especially with Bill Belichick. There's one spot left, and he's not getting that one in Washington. And I cannot believe that we will go into the 2024 season and he will not be coaching. I really, really thought for sure he would be on sidelines. And he's not going to take a team in the middle of the season that fired.
And then Pete Carroll, that was another one that's a little surprising too. But
yeah, I thought he'd get a job. There's a chance that Pete Carroll might not coach again. I think Belichick will coach again. And I'm going to say this. I would say we have no idea what's going to happen during the season. But I'm going to say that watch out for the New York Giants. If Brian Dable has a bad year, or from the rumors that we hear, how unhinged he's in on game days and in the locker room, he could go back to the Giants. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if Wellington Mara would like to give up all control. John Mara would like to give up all control. But that's something. I think that's something to look at. I do believe he's going to coach again. I am not sure, and probably would lean towards Carroll probably not coaching again in the NFL, even though he's an energetic 72. So that's something to look at during next season. Unless a coach gets fired in this offseason that comes out of left field. In 1982, the Jets lost the AFC Championship game, the famous Mud Bowl game, to Miami. And even though they got to the AFC Championship game, they fired their coach about 2 weeks later, Walt Michaels. So who knows? I just can't believe a coach of that caliber, with all the openings that we had this year, didn't get a job.
Well, that was Terminello's take, and anything we missed on this edition, I know I had some personal news, but I'm going to share that on another episode. But anything from you that's personal to you that you want to talk about this week?
No, not nothing pops into my head right away. That's for sure.
Oh, you know what? We got to talk about this real fast. I mean, the NHL hosting the All-Star Game in Toronto is, I don't know how to say it. It's like a pastime. It's like one of the biggest occasions up there, I would say, considering hockey was pretty much born in Toronto and whatnot, and they have the Hall of Fame up there. So,
right.
are you expecting a lot of emotions in addition to the game this weekend?
No, I mean, obviously the All-Star game, it's like the NBA All-Star game. The players get together. It's a nice weekend. The game means nothing. They play that little tournament, divisions versus divisions or whatever. I don't even know what the format is this year. I really have no interest in the All-Star game at all. I have more interest to see how the New York Rangers are going to do coming out of the All-Star break, because after that great start of 18-4-1, they've been a mediocre 12-12-2 the last 26. And I did not think that – I thought this Ranger team was good enough to avoid a spell like that. 26 games is a long time. It's more than a quarter of a NHL season. So that's something to watch. Now, do I still think that they're one of the 4 or 5 teams that could win a Stanley Cup? I do. And I think they might make a big trade before the trade deadline, which I believe is March 8th in the NHL, February 8th in the NBA. I thought instead of just going for a spare part, especially now that Filipino's out for the year, get another center, they might make a big trade. I just don't know where it is yet. But going 12-12-2 over a 26-game stretch is something to be it's worrisome. It's worrisome.
It is certainly abysmal, and you know what? And you look at the stuff off the regular game time. You see Cheeto collapsing or having an episode in practice. I mean, some of the stuff feels dysfunctional right now with the Rangers. I could be wrong, but it just...
Well, I wouldn't call it dysfunctional, Alex. I mean, he came off a concussion, and then he was skating. I guess he was skating with just 2 or 3 guys, or even alone, after the morning skate last week. And again, they didn't give us details. Did he fall and hit his head? Did he trip? Did he pass out? What happened to Filipino? But we've seen players with concussions, young guys that never come back. Their career is over. Brent Lindros, brother of Eric, number 1 draft pick of the Islanders. I mean, he was 21 years old. He suffered a couple of concussions. There's a number 1 draft pick that never played, and he had to quit because of concussions. So that you can't fool around with that. So hopefully he gets better and it's nothing serious. But that was mysterious, to be sure.
Well, Lou, this has been awesome, and I gotta say, I'm going to talk about it more on another episode, maybe on the One Leg Up feature. I don't know yet, but the thanks to you and so many, the confidence you guys give me. I mean, I always say the reason why the show continues to grow is because of the confidence you helped me with, and you were there basically from the moment I met him. I mean, on Monday night, I said, Lou, guess who I just met? And I feel like your energy in this podcast is helping me carry this forward. And that's why we got, as a podcast, got to meet Aaron Boone. How cool is that?
Excellent. Did you tell him that you thought he was not going to be the manager in 2024?
Yeah, I know. Well, no, I got to listen to him for an hour, and I could tell some of these guys are just not press conference guys. They're
Right.
more. They're better in a environment like John Boy and Talking Yanks. I mean, he's very relaxed in that environment. He's going to be with them another year, and that's always fun for the fans. Didn't get much pushback, to be honest. But the one thing I do want to know, and I will always wonder this, is when they played the Marlins in July, they had a chance to really still be in playoffs. He let Clay Holmes blow the game, and I'll never understand that. I didn't really talk about that.
Yeah, I remember that game. I do.
They were up like 5 or 6 runs, and Clay Holmes comes in, blows it, and I said, take him out already. Like, what are they doing? But no, in all seriousness, the one standout from that night, not only being Boone, was John Boy Media looking me in the eye and saying, how's the podcast? So, I mean, wow. To have allies with Talking Yanks, that could grow,
Hey, you never know. You never know. I love doing this with you every week, and I appreciate you having me on. You know that.
Well, that was Terminello's take on One Leg Up with Alex Garrett, and we will do this again next week. You know, it's funny. We got to branch out. We got to be unique with this and figure out how to stand out amongst all the insane media coverage we're about to have from Super Bowl week. I mean, how many TV sets are down there at Super Bowl week, right? Media Row and whatnot. It's insane.
It's insane.
But we'll be there. Maybe not on Radio Row, but we'll figure out how to cover it one way or the other. We always do, right, Lou?
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, that was Lou Terminello. I'm Alex Garrett. We'll talk to you soon.